Gurmagut Cahirlock. Firstly, I suppose I want to welcome this funding. It's certainly a positive development, and I also want to note that in a response that the Minister made earlier, it was mentioned that there is going to be a 20 million additional funding for SUSI grants. And certainly that's welcome, but on that, I suppose, a connected matter, I'm just wondering, will the threshold in terms of the amount of money that students in part-time work can earn, will that threshold be increased? Because it's my understanding that it's currently €4,500, which is a very small amount, and which also leads to a disincentive for students to find part-time work to help fund their education. And I know the Minister might not have that here today, that information, but if I could get it in written format, I'd be very grateful. On the very issue that we're presented with here today, the fact that students on SUSI grants get the top up of €250, and students who are not on SUSI grants get the credit note of €250. There is a difficulty with that. I know I had one constituent who contacted me on this very matter, and the fact that the students will receive the €250 payment before Christmas is welcome, but my constituent wanted to raise the issue of qualifications for this payment. It has been stated that this money will be given via a top-up in the SUSI maintenance grant or by credit note to students who are not in receipt of this payment. But this student himself will receive a €250 credit note, which can be used for on-campus services or any outstanding fees to be paid to third-level institutions. But this year alone, this student has paid a €224 student levy contribution to NUI Galway. He also pays rent in Galway of €475 a month. So therefore, he's in a position of not being able to use that €250 once-off student support grant, which would greatly help. And I suppose the sense coming from the constituent is that by giving some students the €250 cash sum on top of their regular maintenance grant, what has effectively been created is another barrier to education. Most students, regardless of the SUSI fee grant, will have their fees paid off by now, either through working full-time throughout the pandemic or the summer, or by having secured a loan to pay their fees. Campuses around the country are closed currently, and there is little to no hope of colleges reopening after Christmas. On top of this, for final year students like my constituent, a €250 credit note will not mean much, as some students will not be returning to full-time education next year once they graduate. So I'd just like the Minister to look at this issue that I'm raising. Can something be done here, just in the interest of being fair? Obviously, the €250 is very welcome, but in order to make it, I suppose, better for some students like my constituent, I would be grateful if the Minister would look at it. Thanks.
Thanks, Deputy. If I understand the circumstances that you've outlined correctly, the student is a fourth-year student and has all of his or her fees paid up in its entirety, and in that instance, and is not in receipt of a SUSI grant, in that instance, that student will get a cash refund from its college, a €250 cash refund from its college. So it's relatively straightforward. I suppose the concept behind giving students who aren't in receipt of a SUSI or aren't in benefit of a SUSI grant a credit against their next semester fees or future fees, or indeed a credit note for on-campus other charges. We're just trying to avoid having to create a whole new payment system, and all of the grief and the technology and the setup and tendering processes and hiring and all the rest that goes with it. So we're trying to just do it in the most streamlined, straightforward fashion to give the students who are entitled to it and eligible to it the benefit of it as early as possible. But in the case of the one that you've cited there will be a cash refund.